So in this third video, or maybe not third video, I'm not quite sure what order it'll be in, but another important feature is that especially if you come from a D command or D control, you'll be very used to the idea of custom faders. So we've got an idea for S6 that's kind of halfway between System 5 and ICON. And it actually gives you a lot more flexibility. I think it's a really great feature. So in this segment, I'm going to talk about layouts and spill zone because they kind of go together. So first, let's talk about layouts. Up until now in this session, I've just been using the same track order as Pro Tools. So I can obviously nudge and bank through our session to show the different tracks. But of course, when you're using Pro Tools, you might not want to control the tracks in the same order as they are in Pro Tools. Of course, you can change the order in Pro Tools, but really you have your session set out how you want, I imagine. Personally, for me, that's usually masters down the bottom and individual tracks up the top. But of course, different people have different setups. So let's talk a little bit about layout modes. Now, if you've used the S6 before, you'll see that the way that we make layouts has changed slightly in version 2, but it's a little bit easier, I think. Simply what we do is we choose tracks, and then we go into assign, which is automatically going to put the console into layout mode. So what I'm going to do now is just make a couple of layouts very quickly. And again, this screen being multi-touch makes this extremely quick. Let's say I wanted to make a drum layout. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to select near where I am on the console, and I'm going to choose my tracks and say, there we go, I want a drum layout. I've put those faders that I've chosen from my session onto the console in that speed. Now if I want to save this layout, I'm going to push store, and that's going to give me the option to store up to 48 different layouts, and I can call this drums. I can put in a name with my layouts as well, which is really useful. So this is my drum layout, but now I want to make a bass and guitar layout, so let's do that. I'm going to clear all of my console again, and I'm going to choose from bass through all of the guitars, and again put that layout there. Now I've put it down this part of the console, and I'll do this, I'll store that, and I call this guitars, or string instruments, it's fine. I'll make one more here and show you that I can put it anywhere I want in the console. Let's choose the vocal, which is of course a very important channel in a music session. I've now chosen this vocal, and I can put it right directly next to me. And a lot of Japanese engineers will ask me, can I have a blank fader in my session? In previous consoles you would have to make an auxiliary with nothing assigned to it to make a blank fader, but in this console you absolutely can. I could say let's choose the drums again, and I'm going to assign them on the console here, and then I want a small blank between some of my other tracks. I'm going to choose bass, and then I'm going to choose my guitars, and now I have a blank between my drums, my bass, and my vocals. So it's really easy to understand. So I'm going to store this one more time, and I'll say this is all with spaces. Spaces, if I can spell. Spaces. There we go. Store. So now what I can do is when I choose layout, it's going to give me those layouts that I've just created up here on the soft keys, so that I can choose very quickly different layouts. I want to work on my drums, I simply push drums. I want to work on my guitars, I simply push guitars. If I want all with the spaces as I created before, I simply push that button. So while we have this layout mode, I can deselect my layout mode. We go to normal nudging and banking mode, which is very useful. However, what we've done, and a lot of customers ask for, is spill zones, which is quite similar to the custom fader idea, but a lot more flexible. So let's have a quick look at that. What I'm going to do now is go into my settings menu again and select surface. Now you only have to set this up once, but I just want to show you how quickly it is to change. I go into config, and choose my left spill zone. So simply what I do on the console is choose any amount of faders that I like. Let's say I just want to use the first 6 of my first module. In fact, no, let's put it right next to me. I've changed my mind. I'm going to put it in the 8 faders right next to my hand so I can call it up very quickly. So that's my left spill zone selected. And now I'm going to go into my surface again and configure my right spill zone. So I think it makes more sense that my right spill zone is from here to here. So as you can see, the buttons have gone from green to purple to show where the spill zone is. So now I have 2 spill zones. Now these spill zones are super flexible. In my left spill zone, I choose left spill. I then have the option of spilling track type, so auxiliaries, masters, VCAs, or I can spill by layout. So these layouts that I've made just before, I can also put in my spill zone, or a really powerful feature is workstation spill. So I'll show a couple of those now just in my little left hand spill zone. I've chosen left spill. I'm going to choose type, which means track type. I have the selection now of the different kinds of tracks in my session here. So in this session I've got all tracks, audio tracks, aux tracks, VCAs. So I'm going to choose VCAs. So now you can see that the VCAs that I have in my session are spilled into my spill zone that quickly. Now if there was more faders than the amount, you can see I can nudge inside of my spill zone, which is super powerful. If I deselect my spill zone, I can of course nudge and bank the rest of the console as I can normally. So this means I can now nudge my custom fader section, as it used to be called, with layouts. I can also nudge the rest of the console in the Pro Tools track order. So it's become extremely flexible. So in this left spill zone, let's choose a different thing. I'm going to go layout mode. So I'm going to choose one of my layouts to spill. I'm going to spill my drums into this layout. So now you can see my drums are spilled inside of my spill zone, and I can nudge and bank inside of those. And if I ever want to get rid of my spill zone, I simply go Shift, Spill Zone, and the console goes back to the normal selection. But what's really great, and this happens a lot in Japanese studios, you have a mixer's main DAW and you have an assistance machine, or let's say the producer likes to use Logic or Nuendo. You could bring those in, attach them to the console with a single Ethernet cable, and spill those as well. So today, as I said earlier in our previous video, we have Pro Tools as one workstation and Nuendo as another workstation. What I'm going to do now is choose my left spill zone and choose workstation. So I can now choose the second workstation, and now my completely different workstation from Nuendo is spilled in this section of the console, and this section of the console is Pro Tools, and it's that quick to do. I can nudge and bank inside of the tracks that I have in Nuendo, as well as very simply control the tracks that I already have in Pro Tools, and any time I can collapse that. Now, one thing about this console that's super unique, I believe it's the only console in the world that can do it apart from System 5. If I want to, I could go into layout mode, choose assign, and I'm going to clear all of my tracks here. I could, for example, choose some tracks from Pro Tools, and I'm going to put kick, snare from Pro Tools here. Then from my workstation, choose my Nuendo system, and now in between the Pro Tools channels on the same fader module, I can now choose tracks from my Nuendo session and put them directly between my Pro Tools tracks. So if I now store this, this is going to be a Pro Tools and Nuendo layout, which is a very, very unique and powerful feature of this console. As I say, I believe apart from the System 5, it's the only console that can put 2 completely different DAWs directly next to each other. So I think that's a really, really exciting and fun way to use the console. And again, if I want to get out of layout mode, I simply cancel that. I now see my Nuendo system. If I want to change workstation, I simply go back to my workstations, and now I'm controlling my Pro Tools systems again. So yes, it's very flexible, but very simple to control multiple workstations very quickly from the surface. So I think that's going to help in a lot of situations to put the faders that you want quickly on the console.